Okay, Olga says, hello guys, question about silo structure. Our website provides tours in various locations. So we have the following navigational categories: tours by location, continent, and country, tours by type, group tours, self-driving tours, etc., and tours by activities, climbing, trekking, etc. We also have a category called highlights with subcategories such as national parks and beaches. URL structure is, okay, and I'm looking at that, tour type. When siloing the website, okay, would it be best to have each location as main silos and within each silo location create further silo types? So let me see. When siloing the website, would it be best to have each location as main silos and within each silo location create further silos for tour types, activities, and highlights? Or should I have a main silos as locations, tour types, and tour activities? Okay. That's a great question, Olga. It's a very complex question. I can answer it in a way that without, because a lot of people's heads are going to spin when you're talking about a complex silo structure, which is what you're talking about here. And here's the problem with this type of a silo structure. You're going to find what you're listing in your URL structures with the permalink basically is you're using category post name. And that's fine. I've always done that. In the past, I've always preferred that method, which is called the physical silo structure, right? Which is when you have your permalink setting as category/post name. And the reason why it's a physical silo structure is because you can literally see the hierarchy in the URL, which is what we're looking at here. Okay. Now, what's going to happen though, especially when you talk about how if you have like each location as main silos and then within each silo location create further silos for tour types. The problem is if you have tour types that are duplicates, like the same type of tour type, but you have them in different location silos, the slug for that tour type is going to have to be modified for each time it's duplicated. In other words, if you have continent as a location and in tour type, right? And then you have country as a tour type and then country as a location and in tour type. So if you have continent and country and then you have your tour type, and the tour type appears in two different silos. Let's put it that way. It's an easier way to explain it. If tour type, that slug, appears in two different silos, it would have to have a different slug, right? It would be, and WordPress will automatically assign a -2 and a -3 if it's duplicated another time, and a -4 another time, and so on and so forth, right? And so that's okay. It's not going to harm anything, but it's going to look ugly if you're using the category/post name permalink structure. So, because again, and that's why complex silo structures versus simple silo structures, complex silo structures are hard. It becomes difficult to make the silos and the URLs look good because of some, oddities, some things that occur when you have a sub silo or a subcategory that needs to appear in more than one main silo. That's the problem with that. Okay, so if you're going to be using the complex silo structure, then I would recommend that you would switch it to your permalink structure to just a post name permalink structure, that's called a virtual silo, right? You can still achieve everything. You still stack keyword themes. You still stack your content within a hierarchy of categories, subcategories, and posts, pages, parent pages, child pages, and posts, right? You still build all that the same, but it's not reflected in the URL because the URL is just going to be domain.com/final post or whatever level you're at within the silo. That's going to show whatever that slug is, and that's it. And so again, I would recommend, because you have a rather complicated silo, right? That's what we call a complex silo structure. That I would switch it to just a simple permalink structure, which would be the post name. Okay, if you're going to do that. Now, that said, the way that I would recommend I would use actually I would recommend the second silo type here that you mentioned as a question. Should I have the main silos, all locations, tour types, and tour activities? That's the way I would do it. And the reason why is because that's going to make everything a lot cleaner as far as building out those hierarchies. It's going to make more sense. Now, typically, we talk about not wanting to bleed silo themes. If you guys, by the way, Marco, if you don't mind grabbing the simple, you've probably already done it, but the silo tutorials and dropping those on the page.
I will.
Anyways, for everybody else's benefit that doesn't understand what I'm talking about right now, guys, Marco's going to drop the simple silo structure tutorial and the complex silo structure tutorial URLs on the event page, and you can go back and watch them at a later time, and it'll make a lot more sense to you if you don't understand what we're talking about here. That said, now typically, guys, when we talk about having silos, we don't want to internally link from one silo to another with a do follow link, because that will bleed the theme of a particular silo, right? You don't want to cross link between silos with do follow links. You can do it with no follow links because you're not passing page rank and keyword theme like link equity, right? You're not passing it from one to another through a no follow link. It's just a navigational link for users, not for SEO, not for the bots. If that makes sense. So, but we talk about not cross linking between silos. However, Google understands site structure. It's different now, again, because of RankBrain and the machine learning and AI and all of these other things. And Google now understands the structures of sites better. And when you have silos set up properly, if you separate location silos from service silos, and I'm using that as an example because, again, almost all of my experience with this is dealing with contractor type sites. And it used to be a real pain in the ass when I would try to deal with a complex silo structure like this, where I would have like the contractor would cover, like, let's say multiple counties within a state, but they would have the same service categories within each county. Think about how messy that could get with the URL structure, guys. So let's say there's two counties. Let's say Fairfax County and Loudoun County. Those are two counties in Virginia, right? So let's say my slugs were my top level categories were Fairfax County and Loudoun County as location counties or categories. But if I wanted services to be nested underneath there, right, as subcategories, and it was the same services across each county that they served, right? Think about that. Like, let's say it was a plumber. So let's say it was drain cleaning and water heater replacement. Those were two services that they did. Well, if the top level category is Fairfax County, and in the second or the subcategory is the service, which would be, let's say, drain cleaning, but then that drain cleaning also was a service provided in Loudoun County, which obviously it would be, right? Then you would end up having that duplicate slug in two silos, two location silos, which would automatically append the -2. WordPress would append the -2 to it. So again, it becomes really difficult to reconcile those issues. So what I started testing, and this was back in 2014, and since then, we've even had experts, on-page experts like Jeffrey Smith from SEO Bootcamp, who's by far got the best on-page SEO training program I've ever seen, and we've touted that for many months now. It's SEO Bootcamp is by far the best training for how to structure silos and build and do on-page SEO and stack keyword themes and all of that. And go ahead.
I'm glad you mentioned him because I just dropped the link in there. It's by far the best on-page training anywhere right now.
No question. There's no question, guys. It's fabulous. And he even confirmed that the silo structures that I've been using since about 2014 to kind of fix these issues that I've just brought up is to build separate silos. So for example, have a location-based silo that lists all the locations that you service, but then you have a services silo, and you actually can cross-link between those silos, guys, with do follow links, because it makes sense. Google understands the service-based silos and all the keywords and themes within those silos, which can be, multiple categories and subcategories, or it could be one category with multiple subcategories. Either way, Google understands that those are service-based themes, and then it understands location-based themes. So if you cross-link between the two silos, it basically, Google can understand, okay, this is the location information, but it's pointing over to the services that this business provides, and vice versa. These are the services that the business provides, and it's pointing over to the areas, the service areas, the locations that it services, right? And so it works. And I always wondered why it worked. I never, since around 2014, that's how I started structuring my sites to basically get rid of these complex issues that would occur when I would try to have the same categories, across multiple silos. And again, it worked. I just never really understood why. And it wasn't until recently, within about the last year or so, that it really started to make sense to me, especially after talking to Jeffrey Smith about it. And and again, it's because the algorithm has gotten so much more advanced, Google's algorithm, that it can understand the separation of content themes, not necessarily when they're closely related, such as cross-linking from one silo to another, based like service type stuff, but from location to service based stuff. There's such a clear delineation between what those themes are that it's okay to cross-link between them, if that makes sense. So, Olga, I know that was a very long question or answer to your question, but that's because it's a very complex question. And there's a couple different ways that you could do it. I would recommend, if you're going to stick with this type of a structure, I wouldn't go this way because it's too much. If you were going to continue this route, going down this path, then I would just switch your permalink structure to a post name only, which would be, that's called a virtual silo structure. Still, all your stacking is still done the same. You just don't see it in the URL. Okay, and that'll get rid of those ugly URLs, the category issues that are going to come up when you have multiple subcategories in, the same subcategory in multiple categories. You're going to have some weird slug issues, and so I don't like that, how ugly it makes the URL. However, like I said, I would recommend compartmentalizing your site like this, like you just listed here, and then you can actually cross-link between the two when it makes sense and a logical place to do so that you can really educate Google's bot on what your site is about. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense, guys.